It's Andre from High Performance Academy here. Let's check out what's been going on around HPA over the last week. Now, another big change for the vehicle is a move to MoTeC's torque-based firmware. So this is called GPRP Pro. We've actually got a slightly special build for our Toyota 86 because it's also incorporating the CAN messaging that keeps the factory electric power steer working, which is now actually the only factory part left in that car. So I want to quickly go over or briefly go over how this works. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I could spend an entire webinar on it, but it is quite unique. This is something we covered at World Time Attack and quite a few of the competitors there, obviously with very powerful cars. They have moved to this torque-based model. So how this works now is at the moment we are on our throttle pedal translation table. So essentially this is just requesting a certain amount of torque based on the engine RPM and the throttle position. In a conventional ECU, this would, with drive-by-wire, would just be requesting a throttle opening. So the relationship between the driver's pedal position and the throttle body position can be quite different, and we can map that to suit. This goes one step further, and now instead of asking for a throttle opening, we're actually asking for a torque amount. In this case, you can see numbers here at 100% driver's pedal position. I'm also asking for 100% torque. So it might sound a bit strange, 100% torque. Well, yeah, 100% of the available torque. There's another table that we'll have a look at in a moment that also defines what that's going to be for certain conditions. So we can also map this into multiple switch positions as well, which we've done, so we can adjust the sort of feel of the whole system. Now if we come back up to our tuning workbook and we come across to our torque worksheet, we'll go and have a look at where the rest of this comes from. And if we come down to, I'm definitely glossing over things, but again, it could be here for a long time if we weren't. This is the other table that our pedal translation works with, which is our torque limit maximum. So we'll just make this a little bit bigger, and we'll just bring in a graphical view as well. So how does this work? Well, basically what we've got is our driver torque limit switch, which is this one here on our steering wheel. If we jump to our overhead for a moment. So I've actually linked to this one. It does both our boost and our torque request because understandably the two are relatively linked together. There's not much point targeting 1.8 2 bar of boost, but only asking for, let's say, 400 Newton meters of torque. The ECU will absolutely deliver that, but in order to do that, what it's going to do is close the throttle body down, so it might only be sort of 18% open or something like that. So you're going to be driving the turbocharger really, really hard, creating a lot of heat and stress that's completely unnecessary. So my take on this has been to closely match the boost targets that I'm running with the torque that I actually want. So we can obviously adjust this depending on the conditions and how much power we need, but these are actual torque requests in Newton meters. Interestingly, this ended up matching really, really closely what my dyno was displaying, which was quite nice as a bit of validation there. So essentially, if we were, let's say, this position here, our torque limit switch was in position 7, we're at 5,000 RPM, we're requesting 575 Newton meters, but then we've also got that pedal translation table. So if we were at wide open throttle, you'll remember that that was asking for 100%, so therefore it's asking for all of that. So why would we do this? Well, there are some big advantages with torque modeling, and that's why most late model factory ECUs now run this style of control as well. One of the real keys with this is around making the traction control better and also the torque modulation for the driver's foot pedal feel a little bit more linear as well. Part of this as well goes to a part of the software called the torque response system. So basically, if you enable this, it's optional. If you enable the torque response system, what you'll be doing is instead of asking for 100% of the available torque, we'll actually purposely reduce that. So only a few percent, maybe 97%. I'll show you what this looks like in the logging soon. Basically what it does is it then closes the throttle body down. You might be at wide open throttle going down a long straight, changing gears, but what will happen is that the throttle body will actually close down, so it might only be open at 55 to 60%. No, it's not costing you as much power as you think, and we can gain that back if we really are worried about it by targeting slightly more boost. But what that means is you're right on the control point of that throttle butterfly. If you don't understand what this means, essentially the airflow through a throttle butterfly is very, very non-linear, meaning that from closed throttle to maybe sort of 20 or 30% throttle opening, we see a really large increase in our airflow. And the further we go, the closer we get to 100% throttle, we don't really see much variation in the airflow. So if anyone's dynoed a car at 100% throttle opening and then done another run and tried it at 80 or 90%, generally you're going to see almost no difference in the power. And it's not till you back off the throttle to maybe 50 to 60% that you actually start seeing the power drop away. Why that's important is that then if the driver needs to reduce torque, it's only going to take a very small reduction in the driver's foot pedal position, and the ECU can control this very quickly and start reducing the torque because we're right on that control point. The other benefit is with traction control, if we do have a wheel spin event, it's very easy for the ECU to control that because we shouldn't be getting a big breakaway wheel spin, which is going to require a large amount of torque reduction. Okay, so another part of this which is quite tricky, and it's something that I haven't quite got dialed in yet, is if we come back into the software, the traction model. So this kind of works hand in hand. It's pretty advanced, and again, I'm trying to explain this very quickly. So what we have here is our vehicle set up. So it needs some information about whether the car's front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or four wheel drive, weight, weight split, and drivetrain efficiency. So that's our first starting point. Then we've got some traction model modifiers. Whoops, let's get rid of that one and open that up. So we can give it some information essentially about the available downforce, so a coefficient for our downforce, so how effective our aero package is. And the ECU obviously also knows how fast we're going, so it can basically calculate what the effect of that downforce on the traction available is. We also take into account here center of gravity height. Okay, again, sorry for jumping over this very quickly, but there's a lot to take in here. Then we've got some tire tuning. So what we're on here, MoTeC call the ellipse, but essentially this is, if you've ever heard of the traction circle, basically the premise here is that the tire will be able to generate X amount of lateral grip, X amount of longitudinal grip, but as we transition from complete cornering and we come out of the corner and we start accelerating, we can't generate maximum lateral and maximum longitudinal grip at the same time. So we sort of follow a kind of a path like this as we translate from cornering to braking, or braking into cornering, and then from cornering into acceleration, so we can model that as well. And then finally we also have a Tyre Coefficient, which will just, don't know why I keep pressing the wrong key there, we'll just open that up. There we go. So this is again on one of our switches. So if we jump to our overhead, I've called the slip simply because the little graphic labels that came with this didn't have traction model or anything, so slip's good enough. And basically by adjusting this little dial, it's kind of adjusting how much grip or traction is available from the tire. Okay, so that's the premise. Again, I have skipped over a lot of this quickly, but basically the idea here is that this background traction model is constantly calculating, based on all of those parameters plus our lateral and longitudinal g-force, how much torque the tire can put to the track before it starts wheel spinning. And that will then, if that torque limit is below the torque that we've asked for in those other two tables, it will then artificially drop that down. The idea behind this is, again, just getting to a situation where we should never have massive runaway wheel spin. And we can tune this on the fly. So generally what we'll actually want to do is put a little bit more torque to the tire than the track will handle. And the reason we want to do that is because that allows us to then drive the car on the throttle a little bit. So going to be quite unusual and quite hard to drive the car if we don't ever have a situation where wheel spin is a possibility. But this just means that maybe we're only ever 10% above the amount of torque that the tyre can put to the track. So quite complicated, quite a lot going on in here. Definitely not something that I would advise is suitable for every application, but certainly for high-end, powerful cars which are traction limited, this can certainly be a game changer. I just quickly wanted to show you what this all looks like as well. Here's some data from some testing we were doing on the weekend, and let's just zoom in a little bit here so we can concentrate on exactly what's going on. So up here, we've got our engine RPM and our engine speed limit. This is the throttle pedal. So this is what I'm actually doing with my foot on the throttle. And this is what the drive-by-wire throttle is doing. So what we can see here is essentially I got a full throttle here. The drive-by-wire goes to full throttle because I'm requesting more torque than the engine is producing. We've actually got our torque aim and our actual torque right here. We'll talk about that in a second. But basically what happens is that drive-by-wire opens all the way to wide open throttle, and then as the boost comes up and the car starts or the engine starts producing more torque, we get to our torque request, and then we can see that the drive-by-wire throttle actually closes down. So right through here, we're sitting at about 58% throttle opening, and it just sort of moves around there despite the fact that I'm at wide open throttle. And again, we're not giving away more than a few horsepower here, and the idea behind it is it gets us into that control range. If we're really worried about the power, we could run another half a PSI of boost and we'd be back there. Looking at what's happening with the torque aim, so we can see that it's tracking really nicely. We're basically always pretty much right on our requested torque, and what we can see, this situation right here, we can see we've got a drop in our requested torque. So this is the upshift. So I'm at full throttle, I'm accelerating through the gears, request an upshift, and we need a torque reduction in order for the gearbox to change gear. Traditionally, this might be done with an ignition cut, which can be quite hard on the valve train, or a fuel cut, or a combination of both. Here, we're using fuel cut in conjunction with ignition timing retard. So another aspect with the calibration is we have to tell the ECU how for every degree of ignition retard from MBT, how much percent of torque we're reducing. So when it knows this, it knows that if it wants to reduce torque by, let's say, 25%, it knows instantly how much ignition retard to use in order to achieve that. So there you go. Very, very quick insight into the torque model that MoTeC have brought out and how we're using that with the available controls on our steering wheel. I should mention here, we've got for the bottom right one, which I already mentioned, this is controlling both the boost target as well as our torque request at the same time. We've got traction, which at the moment we haven't really needed to use, so traction control, then our traction model, which is our slip request, and then we've got 3 throttle maps as well. So there's a little bit going on in there.
If you like that video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you're not already a subscriber, make sure you're subscribed. We release a new video every week. And if you like free stuff, we've got a great deal for you. Click the link in the description to claim your free spot to our next live lesson.